The scratching at the cabin door wouldn't stop. Luke sighed, setting down his coffee. When he opened the door, his breath caught. A wolf stood there, trembling in the snowlight, thin, limping. One paw hovered above the ground, scarred and shaking. Luke's eyes drifted to it, a dark seam of old pain cutting through the pad. Recognition hit like cold water. Years ago, he'd stitched that wound on a snared cub he'd found near the ridge. Now she was grown. Her fur dusted white, her breath clouding the cold air. She didn't growl, didn't move. Just stared at him, then turned her head toward the woods. Somewhere beyond the trees came a faint, broken cry, high and desperate. Luke felt it before he heard it again. A cub, trapped. The wolf looked back once more, eyes soft but urgent. It wasn't a threat. It was a plea. Luke pulled on his coat, grabbed his rope and stepped into the snow. The storm had swallowed the valley overnight. Luke trudged after the wolf, each step sinking knee-deep into drifts. Her paw prints, half filled with fresh snow, told him this was urgent. The cry came again, faint, broken, somewhere ahead. Then he saw it. A small wolf cub lay pinned beneath a fallen pine, branches thick with ice. The mother circled, whining softly, eyes darting between Luke and her trapped pup. "You want me to help?" Luke whispered, dropping to his knees. The cub whimpered weakly. The mother's growl trembled in the cold air, not angry but afraid. "Easy," he murmured, voice steady. He pulled his hatchet free, snowflakes melting on the blade. One wrong move, and neither of them would trust him again. The axe bit deep, but the trunk barely flinched. Each swing sent ice and splinters flying, the sound sharp in the frozen air. Luke's breath came out in clouds. His gloves were stiff with frost. Behind him the wolf growled, low warning, desperate. Luke didn't look up. He just kept talking, voice steady, the same voice he'd used years ago when he'd calmed a search dog in a storm. His arms burned. The hatchet slipped, biting shallow. He braced the rope around a trunk, using his weight as an anchor. Ice cracked underfoot, breath ragged in the cold. The wolf barked sharply, not warning this time but urging. He could feel her energy behind him, a pulse that refused to give up. Almost. There. He gasped. The cub whimpered beneath the fallen tree, one leg twisted in a knot of branches, snow crusting its fur. The mother circled slowly, torn between fear and trust, yellow eyes fixed on Luke's hands. Luke wedged the axe under the thickest branch and threw his weight down. The wood cracked, splintered, and gave way. The cub jerked free, then yelped as another limb caught its tail. "Come on," Luke hissed, pushing harder. The trunk barely moved. The wolf lunged. For a heartbeat, Luke thought she was coming for him. He flinched, but she went for the tree instead, jaws clamping into the bark. She pulled, growling, tearing at the wood he couldn't move alone. Together they worked, man and wild, breath steaming, snow swirling in the lantern light. The mountain watched in silence. With a final crack, the branch gave. The cub stumbled free, limping but alive. It pressed against its mother's chest, trembling. She bent low, licking its face, snuffling every inch as if to count its breaths. Luke knelt in the snow, moving slowly so she could see his hands. The wolf tensed but stayed. "It's all right," he murmured. Just like before. He tore a strip from his sleeve, dipped it in snow, and pressed it to the cub's leg. The pup whimpered. His hands stayed steady, wiping away the blood and ice. The mother lowered her head, ears flicking, breath brushing his arm. For a moment neither moved. The storm quieted around them, and the only sound was breathing. Luke remembered another winter. The same valley, the same eyes in the storm. He'd been out there with his partner. 2 men, 1 signal flare, chasing a cry in the snow. They'd found her. The same wolf, half buried near the ridge, a snare cutting into her paw. Luke was binding the wound when the mountain gave way. It sounded like the sky breaking. His partner turned, shouted his name. Then the world went white. When the snow settled, only the wolf remained, limping away, her paw wrapped in strips of his coat. His partner was gone. A gust tore through the trees, pulling him back. Cold stung his face as he tied the cloth. "There?" he whispered. "You'll walk." The cub blinked, chest quick beneath the cloth. The mother sniffed, then met Luke's eyes. Not in threat, but recognition. Luke stepped back, chest heaving. "You did well," he whispered, half smiling through the exhaustion. Then the wolf turned again, pawing at the snow near the tree roots. At first Luke thought she was just restless. But her movements were deliberate, digging, sniffing, scraping deeper. The cub watched from behind her, head tilted, tiny whimpers echoing in the cold. Snow flew until her claws hit something solid, a dull clink beneath the ice. She froze, brushed the spot, and metal glinted through. She freed it and lifted her head, breath rising in pale clouds. Then she limped to Luke and dropped it at his boots. A rusted dog tag. Luke didn't move. The wind stilled, the mountain watching. He crouched, brushed the frost away, and the letters came clear. His breath caught. His partner's name. The one he'd carved into the cross back at base, believing it was buried forever. The wolf watched him, chest heaving, snow melting along her fur. She carried him through the storm once more, not for herself this time but for him. Luke swallowed hard, eyes burning. "You kept it," he whispered. He looked up. The wolf met his gaze, calm, ancient, knowing. Then she turned toward the ridge where the avalanche had fallen. Snow drifted between them as the mountain breathed again. The memory hit, the roar of collapsing snow, the white wall swallowing everything, his partner's voice shouting his name before the silence. He'd searched for days. Found nothing but snow and silence. The tag was the only thing that never surfaced, until now. The wolf limped closer through the drifts, each step careful, measured. The cub stayed pressed to her side, eyes wide and unblinking. Luke lowered his head, the tag cold against his palm. He turned it once between his fingers, then he slipped it into his pocket, close to his heart. "Thank you," he said quietly. The wolf stilled, ears twitching. She didn't know the words, but his tone made her pause. Her breath rose white between them, then she stepped closer. Luke didn't move. The world felt fragile. One wrong motion and the moment might shatter. The wolf leaned in, her muzzle brushing his glove. A brief, hesitant touch. Warm breath seeped through the leather, fur grazing his wrist. Then she turned back to her cub. Luke stood still, his heart hammering. The wolf started walking, slowly and deliberately. She paused to nudge the cub, urging it forward with a gentle push of her muzzle. The little one stumbled, then followed, its small prints pressing into hers. Before the darker trees, the mother stopped and turned. Her gaze found Luke through the drifting snow, steady, unguarded, almost grateful. For a heartbeat, everything stilled. Then she moved on, the cub at her side, their shapes fading into the forest shadow. Luke exhaled slowly. He glanced at the trail they'd left, paw prints looping back through the trees, faint but sure, leading home. For the first time in years, the silence felt kind. He realized peace didn't mean forgetting, it meant remembering without pain.